Hi there, welcome to ICP Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. If you're new to my sessions, these are the three key takeaways that you can expect from my sessions. So let's start with the weekly chart. And previously we talked about ICP was about to break out, and indeed this week it happened. So the thing is, what's next then, right? So what we are seeing here is that the breakout happened exactly at the very tip of this descending triangle in candlestick analysis terms, but we know it's basically the resistance line and the red dashed support line that's extended from the spring back in 2023. So is it repeating itself? Not exactly repeating, but like rhyming with what happened back in 2023. Similar time in late October, early November that we are starting to see ICP climbing. So let's get back to the Wyckoff stages. Obviously the spring has been confirmed, and previously I kept the question mark just to make sure that it's not going to get all the way down to the purple dashed line at around $2.05. That's basically a level that got to by the October 10th event. Fortunately, it did not happen, and the volume itself, especially this week, has been higher than the previous 3 weeks, and that's a positive sign for the price to climb further. So that's one positive over here. And for next Wyckoff stages, we talk about the potential of further tests after the spring, meaning like what's happening right now, the price is being rejected at the center line of the blue box. You see the blue dashed line coming down, right? So as of now, it's still gathering momentum, let's put it this way. It has some momentum that pushed the price up, but it needs further momentum in order to get to the distribution cycle. And when that happens, that's when we will see the sign of strength back to around or a little bit above the orange key level of $5.82. That's what happened back in mid-July last time this line was challenged. So hopefully we'll see this going forward, breaking the ceiling of this blue box, and also the red key resistance right now, 4.52, eventually going up there, and potentially showing us a backup and last point of support, meaning a little bit like a sideways movement, gathering momentum or consolidating in a lot of people talking about these kind of terminologies. So when that consolidation finishes, that's when the price shoot up to the distribution cycle. That's the wishful thinking. And the bigger hope is to repeat something we have seen in that started late 2023 into early 2024. Because the one that happened last year end was a mini cycle, but good enough. If it's going to climb from current point around $4 all the way to the purple key level or even above, that's already 300% or over 300% of return. However, one caveat here is that you see this red dashed line. So it's a declining peak trend line. So when ICP this time eventually gets into a new distribution cycle, hopefully it doesn't stop around the yellow and the green key level, somewhere between 7.2 and 8.66, because that will mean this trend line, this declining peak trend line, is indeed affecting the price of ICP. So that's not something we want to see. So while we are hoping the price to get started, show us some strength towards the orange key level of 5.82, and eventually get to a level at least through the blue key level of 11 0.12 and eventually challenge somewhere above the 12.72 purple key level to show us the buying climax. That's the hope, okay? So while we are seeing it starting to go up, there are multiple obstacles still, and it may not be just a straight line up. It can get rejected by these key levels and then consolidate sideways further before it goes up. And before getting to the daily chart to see any sort of further indication in terms of timing, the Bollinger Band corner squeeze, the squeeze that happened over the past 2 to 3 months since July, seems to be starting to swing. Okay, the swing seems to have started, and in a daily time frame, the swing is smaller, but in a weekly, like the one we are seeing, the swing tends to be way larger. So look at this over here. That was like 110% swing. That one that went down was about 65%. So be careful when you use this indicator if you're new to this. This indicator shows a price swing, a bigger price swing will come, but not telling us which side. Okay, this time it went to the downside first, this time it goes up. Sometimes if you look at it when it starts, at the upper half of the channels, it swings to the downside, and if it starts from the lower half of the channel, it swings to the upside. But there are occasions that may differ, like this one. So it basically squeeze at the lower half of the channel, but then it swing to the downside first before it goes up. So be really careful. The indicator really doesn't tell us, which side the swing is to start first. Let's get to the daily chart. So currently there's no squeeze, but the previous couple of days, if you have been following my sessions, that's close enough for me to call that a squeeze, and now the swing begins. Okay? Enough for Bollinger Band corner squeeze. Back to the daily Wyckoff. So the spring is confirmed. Hopefully that's the end of it. That's the lowest point. This red dashed line. Hope that's the case, because that's exactly where the low was back in September 2023. And now it's climbing, like we already covered, that it's being suppressed by this center line of the declining trend that started back in late July this year. So if there's not sufficient people buying in, then it may come down to test the bottom edge of this box and then retest this again, and this time maybe it gets to the ceiling, so it tests both the red key level of 4.52 as well as the ceiling of the previous declining trend. So similar sense, that means there may be more tests coming before it goes up to the sign of strength and the backup and last point of support, similar to what we have seen in the weekly chart. And just to look at these 2 days candles, so the breakout happened right there yesterday. We already talked about this trend before, this line that crosses here, that we said the breakout will happen sometime before November 7th. So now we get to here. I just want to see if this trend continues. Let's say if this very steep climb continues, assuming that's the case. When is the next breakout occasion? Alright? Just want to make the line tighter. But sometimes it doesn't help in the trading view. It's basically snapping a little bit too close. Okay, so let's keep it right over there. Assuming the candlesticks are going to stay above this line, this yellow line over here. Maybe I'm thinking to change to another color, but let's keep it this way for now. So what it's pointing to is assuming the center line of the blue box is not something of strong resistance, even though you see the price is being rejected right over there. Assuming it's still going to climb into this triangle. Okay, that's where the red key level of 4.52 is, together with this ascending trend line, support line. That's where Wednesday is. Okay, and eventually the ceiling of the blue box, that's somewhere about same time, Wednesday or Thursday. So here, when we get to the middle of the week, if the price continues to climb and gets to this point, and here, that's when the bigger guys are going to tell us, are they still going to push the price further up? Or are people starting to FOMO in at that point? Okay, only 3 days. In only 3 days we'll know whether the rejection will happen or the actual breakout will happen, and then we'll get to potentially the sign of strength level. Alright, so here is key. Would this get rejected at that particular triangle, or is this going to continue to break out towards the sign of strength? In 3 days' time, we'll get to see that happen. That's very exciting, right? Look at these two volume bars over here. That's not normal. If you look at what happened across the entire year, actually. The beginning of the year, somewhere in the week or on February 3rd, that's the closest point. That was about 3 million. And that's about the same on the October 10th event. But now, it's over 4 million for 2 consecutive days. So, just one thing though, yesterday there was a bit of selling when the price went above the bottom edge of the previous declining trend zone or the channel. But then, immediately following today, that's where it's climbing near the center line. So next stage, I hope it's going to at least stay somewhere near the red key level and potentially the ceiling of the box. So by the middle of the coming week, it's got a chance to stay above the red and go challenge somewhere higher. Hey, our price prediction for Wyckoff by the end of 2025. I am not sure I understand what you mean. You mean you want a price prediction, or you have a price prediction? Oh, there are a couple of other comments that's not popping up on my interface. Sorry, I see. Let me take a quick look. I have to enlarge my screen on the other side just to see the comments earlier. What are the odds of breaking the big downtrend? It has deviated from that already. So the climb here is the first leg to break this actually. So you can consider that two separate events, because this little thing over here. So let me draw this so to make it clearer. So this was the previous downtrend that got disrupted by the October 10th event that got to this level of horizontal trading, okay? So basically there was another trend right over there that declined to this level. And then it edged out to this side, and now it's starting a new uptrend. So this part doesn't necessarily mean it's related to what's happening here. So even though we see resistance at this similar level and also this edge, which makes sense because those were the trend lines extended from the previous downtrend, it doesn't mean it's going to continue over here. It's a chance, but not necessarily the case. And then the second comment, these lines mean nothing, and if this worked, you would not. Here it is. Interesting comment, thank you. Hopefully we can retest and break this. Yep, 618 FIP. Price prediction. Yeah, that I addressed. There's another language. And also looks like it's breaking that line. Can the breakout happen sooner? Yes, definitely. So I shared in many occasions that the breakout can definitely happen before the very tip of those triangles, like the one here. We talk about November 7th, right? The breakout happened yesterday. So it doesn't have to wait till that very tip, like what happens here. Even though we say it's the middle of the coming week, it can definitely shoot above those by tomorrow, if that's what people have confidence in. Like it's Monday tomorrow, right? So people will be more active than the weekend, I suppose. And eventually, when we extend this line, if this really goes up, then by the end of next week, that's the point where the orange key level is being challenged. That's 5.82. That's where the previous sign of strengths were. You see all these peaks over there from the automatic rally back in March, end of March, and then mid-May, mid-June, late July, and mid-August. So almost every single month, other than September and October, that particular line was tested. And this time, when we get to mid-November, similar to those months, that's when we've got a chance for that, or to see that to happen at around 5.82. Okay, so let's see. Yep, I believe that's all the comments for now. Thanks for joining me for ICP session today. There seems to be some optimism or optimistic move currently, and hope that momentum can continue. Remember, even if you are very bullish about ICP, don't forget about our best friend.